This is The Sports Life.
Frazier from three-quarter court. Oh! He threw it in. Count it. It will count.
From half court, Winston.
He got it.
He got it.
Whoa.
He got it from half. Whoa.
Cassius, baby.
4 seconds to go. Morcell, deep three. It's good. Daryl Morcell with the shot of the year for the Maryland Terrapins.
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Some magic moments in men's basketball in the Big Ten from 2020. Well, this week's show is kind of interesting as we're going to profile one of the most amazing broadcasters ever. His name is Johnny Holliday. He's been at it for a long, long time, and he has a story like none other. Well, as we salute the year's great moments in the Big Ten as we count our way sort of backwards into the upcoming season, this is the show where we salute some of the great moments from 2020.
And you mentioned it's going to be a lot of football, so let's get some basketball going here in the beginning part, where there was a three-way tie for the Big Ten championship. It was Michigan State, Maryland, and Wisconsin. Wisconsin ends up clinching a share, what felt like from out of nowhere at the end of the regular season with this win at Indiana. And here's the TV call of it with Jason Benetti.
Green, time slipping away. Green, no! And the Wisconsin Badgers, for the first time in 5 years, have won a share of the Big Ten title.
And that was a big moment for the Badger basketball program. And for lack of a better term, I'd just say I'm old enough to remember when Wisconsin basketball was like, hey, we get to play them twice. There's 2 wins. And what a job they have done with Bo Ryan and Coach Bennett. And now what Greg Gard has done. It's not an easy out for sure.
No, simply not. And that was a team that was, again, kind of in typical preseason Wisconsin fashion, not really expected to do much. And what do you know? They finished the race at the top of the mountain. They shared that, as we said, with Maryland and Michigan State. Well, how about Michigan State's win to clinch a share of that Big Ten title? It came on Senior Day 2020 as Michigan State would beat Ohio State to claim their spot and a share of that championship. But it would also end up being, we didn't know it at the time, the final game of Cassius Winston's legendary career as a Spartan, and he got to hit one of the big shots to put the final nail in the coffin against the Buckeyes.
With the ball, Winston dribbling around. Here's a 3. He got it! Why not?
He's a senior. He deserves it.
And for the 3rd straight year, Michigan State is going to hang a banner. Michigan State has won another Big Ten championship. And they've done it at home on the final game of the season. And who would have guessed, as you said, Dalton, that was it. That one of the great players in the history of Big Ten basketball, Cassius Winston, would take a final shot. The 3 was good, but nobody thought that would really be the final shot. And I think there was a whole universe of us that thought that while we were shut down for a little bit, I don't think anybody outside of those in the know understood how long we were going to be shut down.
No, I think you're completely right. And then, of course, you fast forward that next week, the Big Ten tournament tried to get underway. And then you remember the scenes of Fred Hoiberg on the bench. You remember everything that was going on. It just was a wild experience. One of those you kind of had to be there to really feel what was happening.
I mean, I really thought Coach Hoiberg was in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa. But there was a great comment in that aborted attempt at having a Big Ten postseason tourney from Richard Pitino, then the head coach of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. They won the opening game, right? They won their first one. They're going to play the second day. And at that time, they understand they're playing in front of no fans. So the question to Coach Pitino was, well, how's it going to be playing in front of no fans? And he says, do you know where I came from?
This is fine.
Yeah, it works. I'm used to it.
Well, and for the months following that during the COVID pandemic, at one point, Big Ten football was canceled. It came back, canceled, came back, on and off and on and off. But we get to the beginning of that Big Ten football season with our next sound of the week, where Indiana, led by Tom Allen and quarterback Michael Penix, knocked off a top talented Penn State team with this final play as Michael Penix hit the pylon.
Penix awaits the snap. Freifogel set. Here's the stab back. Penix looks. He runs with it. Looks to the end zone. Now he tries to run it. He tried to dive for the end zone. And I don't think he got in. And wait a second. Oh, they say he did. They say he did. Indiana wins it. 36-35. Tom Allen jumping all over down there. People jumping on him. This football team has broken a long string to the Penn State Nittany Lions. Just the second time they've beaten them in 23 meetings now.
And what a great day for Indiana football. Who would have guessed? A few years later, they'd have a lot of big, great days, huh?
That really is wild to think about. But before we wrap up Sounds of the Week, this is a clip that didn't really have any impact whatsoever on the Big Ten football season, but we find it to be a lot of fun. It's Rutgers trailing in a game, and what do you do when you're behind? You're desperate? You start lateraling it. See what happens. Well, this play that, again, had no impact on the game and eventually would end up being a touchdown called back anyway by penalty, certainly provided some entertainment. Here's the voice of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Chris Carlin, with what was just a circus of a play for the Scarlet Knights.
Here's Jones making the catch, a little lateral to Bo Melton. Melton trying to lateral it back to Vedral, who laterals it to Raekwon O'Neal, who just stood up high in the air. It's caught by Jones back at the 25. He cuts left to the 30, flips it up in the air. It's caught. Now who's got it? It's Vedral. Turns, throws it back. Rutgers has got Jones at the 50, to the 40, to the 30, to the 20. He's gonna go! What just happened?
You have to be kidding me.
That was Bo Melton on the most unbelievable, ridiculous Cal Stanford of 30, 40 years ago copycat play.
Well, it came back, as Dalton said. And one of the things Dalton and I talked about before the show was, I mean, the touchdown didn't affect the outcome.
Right.
Rutgers is going to lose regardless. But come on, it's just a little penalty. Let them have it. Who cares? It was fun. Yeah. Let's go, guys. Well, as for this week's show, we're going to profile one of the most amazing broadcast careers ever. It's the career of Johnny Holliday, the voice of the Maryland Terps. Back with more in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
You hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how
How are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am. Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, this go around on the Sports Life, we will be focusing on one of the most unique careers in the history of radio, and maybe even in broadcasting for that matter. It has spanned over 8 decades, has had 2 distinctively different broadcasting journeys, and at the age of 88, well, this career is still humming along quite nicely. Today, our spotlight will focus on Johnny Holliday. Since 1978, Johnny has been the football and men's basketball voice of the Terps of Maryland. Yet that is only part of Johnny Holliday's broadcast story. He has gone from being one of the nation's top disc jockeys of the 60s to becoming a Hall of Fame sports announcer. So, when we had a chance to visit with Johnny, it just seemed logical to begin our conversation revisiting how it all began.
Radio journey started for me, Will. It will be coming up in October of this year, will be 70 years ago, 1956, in Perry, Georgia, where I went to work at my grandfather's drugstore, and I'd done a couple of other odd jobs coming out of high school. And my grandfather says, come work for me in my drugstore. You can, stock the shelves and so forth, and we'll pay you so much a week. And we have this little semi-pro baseball league here in Middle Georgia, and we have a team in town. You can pitch for them, which I pitched in high school. I said, okay. So I went up there, and I was there for maybe 3 weeks. And the guy from the local radio station came by trying to sell my grandfather some commercial time. And my grandfather introduces me as, I want you to meet my grandson. He's a disc jockey. Well, I wasn't a disc jockey. I'd been entered into a contest by my best buddy as a joke. And I went through it as a joke, but all my grandfather heard was disc jockey. So the guy that owned the station in Perry says to me, I'm looking for somebody. Would you like to come talk to me? I said, yeah, sure. So I go up the next day. He gives me some copy to read, and he says, can you start Monday? Yeah, I guess I got to tell my grandfather. So I took a pay cut from 45 a week to 32 a week. But it was a daytime station on 980 WBBN in Perry, Georgia. The star of the basketball team was the soon-to-be Senator Sam Nunn. He was the star of their team. And it was, I learned everything. You signed the station on, you signed the station off. You play beautiful music. You play Lawrence Welk music. You play Dream a While music. You play rock and roll, everything. And I was there for 4 months and went back to Miami thinking after 4 months experience, I was the hottest disc jockey in America. And nobody would talk to me. And this was 1956 now. And the R&B station was the only station to talk to me. And they hired me for their station in Rochester, New York. And they put me on as I was the only white guy on the all-black station back in those days. And I was there for 4 months, and we went to Rochester in July of 1957 and left to go to Cleveland in February of 59, then New York City, San Francisco, and then to Washington, D.C. back in 1969. So I was really at the right place at the right time.
So, Johnny, what was it like in the 60s? I mean, you're one of the top rock and roll DJs in the nation.
It was times, Will, that I will never, ever forget, because the relationship with the guys on the air and the artist was incredible. It's just like me and you talking now. I'm talking to Bobby Rydell or Frankie Avalon or Fabian or Paul Anka or Leslie Gore or Connie Francis, Tony. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The music was different. I loved it. I can't relate to the stuff today, but they're not playing it for me today either. But the stations I work for, a lot of community involvement. I had my charity basketball teams in every city that I worked in. And it was just a special time that every Friday and Saturday night I would go to a high school with a record hop. Take the records. There'd be 1,000 kids, 1,500 kids dancing. We'd have Neil Sedaka once came in town, and his record promoter said to me, "We've got Neil Sedaka coming in. Do you have anything on this weekend?" I said, "Yeah, I got to dance on Friday and Saturday. Can they get a piano for him?" I said, "I'll call the school." He wanted to do the show live. So he comes out to Beechwood High School outside of Cleveland. He does like 45 minutes on the piano. Kids went nuts. They didn't charge anything, nothing. They did everything for free. We had a Greyhound bus that took our basketball teams to play high school faculties and coaches. And I remember once the Brothers Four were in town. They rode in the bus with us. And I still keep in touch with a lot of the artists from those days. It was a whole different era and one that I really, really enjoyed.
So you were involved when the Beatles made their final appearance on U.S. soil. What was that like?
It was just like you and I talking today. They were as nice a bunch of guys as I think I've ever met. I'd met them in New York. And then when I went to San Francisco, I happened to be out there when they had their last concert together in 1966, I think it was. But I was in the Giants clubhouse with them. We're sitting having sandwiches and Cokes and crackers and cookies and stuff, reminiscing about New York, and I had met them then. And they were just really nice guys. The concert wasn't sold out. It was a foggy night, cold night. I think they did maybe 40 minutes, and there might have been maybe 15,000 people there in San Francisco. And the tickets were $6.50 a piece. Did their show, got in the armored truck, went to the airport, took off to L.A., and that was the last time they worked together as the Beatles.
Isn't that amazing? One of the great groups of all time, only 15,000 people.
I know. And the wind was blowing out. They're performing at second base, so all the sound went out to the bay.
Unbelievable. I want to go back to something you said a couple moments ago about your radio station basketball team and how the roster came about.
I started my team in Cleveland, and Bernie Parrish was a defensive back for the Browns. And in the off season, he worked on our sales staff because he was the starting cornerback, and he was all pro, and he was trying to supplement his income of, I think he was making $25,000 a year with the Browns. And all he got was a meal after the game, sandwiches and Cokes like the rest of us. And then in San Francisco, we had Sal Bando from the Oakland Athletics, who worked at our station in the off season. And we had Rick Barry, when Rick jumped leagues between the NBA and the ABA. They got just the same thing we got. They did it for nothing. And then here in Washington, guys like Art Monk and Joe Theismann and a whole bunch of Redskins and Senators. We finally got to where the schools would give us enough money we could pay the guys for gas, like $25 a game. But it was a different time entirely. And after the game, they'd sign autographs and pose for pictures. And, yeah, it was really, really exciting.
So when you're going around town with your basketball team, Rick Barry was on your team?
Rick Barry, when he signed with the Warriors, I was the public address announcer. Besides, I did afternoons on KYA. I was on 3 to 6. And then I was the Browns PA guy when I was there. I didn't do any PA work in New York, but when I got to California, the first people I called was the Oakland Raiders to see if they ever, needed a PA guy, and they did. They said, "Yeah, we're looking for somebody right now." I said, "Well, I did the Cleveland." "Oh, good." So I got that job, and then the Warriors knew I had the Raiders job. And when Rick Barry got signed, me being from Miami, he's a graduate of Miami, they set up a luncheon for us, and for some reason, we just hit it off, Will. And they said, "Is there any chance you could do our PA?" "Sure." So I was the PA guy, and I did the preseason games on television for the Warriors as well. And Rick and I just happened to be friends. And every time he went on the road, his wife stayed with us. He didn't want her staying alone. So when he jumps leagues, he says to me, "Can I play on your team just to kind of keep in shape?" Now, we had good players. We had guys that played at the college level. So we didn't lose many games. We won most of them. So I said to Rick, "Rick, you're a professional player. You can't play with us." He said, I'm a free agent for this year, and you guys play 60 games. I'd love to play with you. Okay. He played 59 games. Of the 60, we were 59-1. He missed one game, and we lost in overtime. And he wasn't the leading scorer. He would play as hard as he had to, and some of the coaches were really, really good. And some guys would try to, show the students what they could do with Rick Barry. And in Palo Alto, for a game, a guy kept undercutting him. So Rick's at the foul line with that patented underhand free throws that he had. And he says to the basketball coach standing on the line, he says, Coach, he said, I know you're probably trying to impress your kids here, but what you're doing, you're messing with my career when you undercut me going for the hoop. So the next time you do that, I will take you and you go up with your student body. You'll be sitting with them after I toss you up there in the stands. This is a charity game. We've got 5,000 people making a lot of money for your school. Knock it off. Okay. You would love Rick Barry. A lot of people don't like him or didn't like him because he was so outgoing and he complained about everything, but he wanted everything to be as good as he was.
So how does one go from being a rock jock to becoming a legendary sports voice of the University of Maryland and surviving a plane crash? Well, those stories are up next as our visit with Johnny Holliday continues right here on The Sports Life.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's get it done right with some help. Fight!
Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners make sense for you. Well, as our visit with Johnny Holliday continues, we next move our conversation to how does one walk away from a plane crash?
Yeah, there was a story in 1974, I guess it was. And I was doing the morning show on WWDC here in Washington. And we did a lot of phone calls, a lot of interviews, a lot of characters, and had a great morning show. Just wonderful. I couldn't wait to get to work every day. And there'd been a big flood down south of Charlottesville, Virginia, in the mountains. And the flood waters came down and washed away homes, washed away people, basically. And the Washington Post did a story on the mountain people of Nelson County. And one story caught my eye of a 90-year-old woman who lived on the top of a mountain in Livingston, Virginia, and her name is Dora Morris. And the floodwaters came off the mountains. A gigantic rock was behind her log cabin that she lived in 1974. And the waters hit the rock, went around the cabin, and she was saved. Her property was saved. And the guy that wrote the story got a Pulitzer Prize award for writing the article. So I called him up. I said, I'd like to go down and see this lady. She'd be a fascinating interview for my morning show. And he said, here's her phone number. I guess they'd put a phone in maybe a year earlier. He said, you're not going to believe what you're going to see. She's very proud of having lived in Livingston all of her life, never been to Washington, D.C., never went to college. Talk to her, call her up, put her on the air, tell her you want to come down and visit with her at the very end of the conversation. So I did that. So one morning I called her up. We had no delay either. So she answers the phone. I said, Miss Dora Morris? Yes. I said, my name is Johnny Holliday. I'm on WWDC in Washington, and I wonder if I can talk to you on the radio for a few minutes. She says, sure. What do you want to talk about? I said, well, about this wonderful article I read about you and your friends. So she would talk in the present tense like I knew who she was talking about. I have no idea who she's talking about. But at the end of the conversation, I said, I'd like to come down and visit with you. Okay, come on down. So the next morning when I come to work, there are people that had dropped off food and clothing and gifts for this little old lady. So we chartered a plane to fly my daughter and I, she was 11 at the time, down to Lynchburg. And the Red Cross picked us up in Lynchburg. They loaded everything into the truck, and we start this trek up the mountain. And, well, it was like a Walt Disney made-for-television movie. As we approached the log cabin, the dogs are running around outside. They're barking. They're going crazy. So she comes out, and the truck is loaded with gifts and food and clothing. And so she's on the porch, and we pull up to the porch, and she was not about to come off the porch. She had a little apron on, little knit hat over her hair, had a stick in her hand, yelling at the dogs who were barking like crazy. And so the conversation was, I was on the ground by the truck. She's on the steps of her log cabin. And we talked for about an hour. Never invited me in until I said, Miss Dora, we've got some gifts for you here and stuff. I wonder where I could I bring them inside? Gifts for what? I said, well, these are from listeners of mine. Oh, okay. Yeah, just follow me. So we go up the steps. We go in the log cabin. She's got a pot-bellied stove in the living room that she slept next to the pot-bellied stove. She opens up a door, and in this room, Will, is just hundreds of gifts from around the country because the Post story got carried all over the nation, and people were sending her stuff. She says, I don't know how I'm going to eat all this food and wear all these clothing. I don't know why people are doing this, but I appreciate it. And so we got to talking. She'd never been to Washington. She lived in that same log cabin, well, since 20 or 25 or something like that. So as we're getting set to leave, my daughter says, could I use Miss Dora's bathroom? So I said, Miss Dora, can Tracy? Yeah, come on. So she comes off the steps, takes her around to an outhouse. 1974, an outhouse. Tracy comes back, and I said, everything okay? She says, I don't know what that was. I've never been in a bathroom like that before. It was an outhouse. So long story short, on the way back, as the guy's getting ready to land the plane, he lost control of it in a crosswind and tried to take it around again, but couldn't get it up, and he crashed just before it hit the runway. Luckily, there was a rescue squad maybe a half a mile away. They got Tracy and I out before the plane blew up, and spent 30 days in the hospital, and she didn't get a scratch. She was wedged between the back seat and the front seat, and the pilot had all kind of injuries, broken leg, facial injuries, broken arm. So I was pretty lucky. I just had, my spleen was taken out, my nose was behind my left ear. So, but I was okay, okay. It was, never knew what hit me, to be honest, Will, because the last thing I remember was grabbing a hold of the strap when he said, I'm going to take it around again. And I reached back in the back seat and tightened her seatbelt. And the next thing you know, I'm in an ambulance. So I don't have any recollection of anything that happened.
Wow. It's good to be lucky, huh?
Let me tell you, how many times do you and I pick up a newspaper or see in Iowa or South Dakota, a small plane goes down with family and it's a Cessna 172 and there are no survivors. And that's what scared me. I didn't know this guy didn't have a lot of nighttime flying hours, and they took away his license, of course, and he could have gone to National Airport. He could have gone to Andrews Air Force Base, but he didn't think to do that. He panicked and tried to get in this runway. It only had one way in and one way out. And, it all worked out okay, but it was something that stuck with me for quite some time.
It's hard to imagine 48 years coming up of being the voice of Maryland. So how do you go from this guy in top 40 radio at the top of your game to this? How's that happen?
Well, I played football, baseball, and basketball when I was in high school. I pitched in baseball, guard in basketball, and quarterback at my size. I'm not a big guy. But I always knew that if ever I got the chance to broadcast games, I would jump at it. And in Perry, my first job, I convinced the station owner to let me go to the Perry High School basketball games, sit in the stands with a Wallen Sack tape recorder, tape the game. We would play it back the next day on the radio. And I did it by myself. Not a lot of information about the players on either team, just a sheet of paper with their names and numbers. I can't imagine how bad it had to sound, but that was my first game. And then I didn't do any play-by-play in Rochester. I did a college scoreboard in Cleveland, but I didn't do any play-by-play in Cleveland. And then in San Francisco, I started to really do a lot more. I did Stanford football on television, and then Cal basketball with Rick Barry as my analyst the year he jumped leagues. But I always knew that I could do it, probably like you. It's just something that if it comes along, you grab it. It's not heavy lifting. It's not like what my girls do. One's a physician, one's a NICU nurse, one's a post-surgical nurse. Those are high-stress jobs. Mine's just calling game, and it's not that big of a deal. I still love it. I still think I'm halfway good at it. And the bottom line, Maryland, I guess, thinks the same way. They keep re-upping my contract.
So did they call you? How'd that work? How'd you guys hook up?
Well, when I came to Washington in 1969, the station I worked for in California was owned by Avco Broadcasting. They also owned the station in Washington. I had left radio in San Francisco to do sports at night on Channel 2. And after 3 months I was there, I get a call from my former boss at KYA, who let me out of my contract to take the television job. And he said to me, "Do you miss radio?" I said, "I miss it terribly. Would you think of departing and going to Washington? Are you not happy doing TV?" I said, "No, I'm not, because I get 3 minutes a night sometimes." He said, "Okay, they want to fly you back to D.C. They've got a morning spot open. They have the Senators and they have the Bullets. It's a middle-of-the-road station, heavy personality, no more top 40 stuff. You'll love it." So I fly back, and they said, "Okay, you do the morning show 6 to 10. You do the pregame show with Ted Williams for baseball, and you do the Bullets with Tony Roberts." I said, "Oh, okay." And that's how it started. And then when Tony left to go to Mutual to take over Notre Dame, he'd been doing Navy football. So I slipped over and took over for him doing Navy 1 year. And then before Maryland came George Washington, and then Maryland came in 1979. And I always wanted to go to WMAL. That was the number one station. My morning show was number 2 in the ratings, but I could never beat these guys at WMAL. 2 guys in the morning who'd been there like for 35 years. So the guy at WMAL says to me, "How'd you like to come over and do weekends for us, and you can do sports on the morning show for these guys. I said, yeah, I get my foot in the door. He said, exactly, because when they retire, we'll move you to the morning spot. And in the meantime, we have an opening for play-by-play guy for Maryland. Tim Brandt had been doing it. He's going to television. You want to do that? Yeah, sure. So that's how I started.
So when you look back at this, and I don't even know if this is a fair question, but if you were to grab one or two magic moments, what would they be?
With Maryland, it'd have to be the national championship. That was something that, every broadcaster wants to be part of that. And I was lucky to do that game in 2002. And I think when it comes to the disc jockey stuff, probably my show was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was excerpts of different top disc jockeys in the country when the Hall of Fame first opened. And you could go to this display of the United States, a map of the states, and push a button from what city you want to listen to. You push the button for Cleveland, up would come my air check along with guys from other stations. And so that's how you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You can listen to it with a picture and a bio and stuff like that. The Beatles thing would have to be up there. On the Road with the Monkees would have to be up there. And I mean, I know it sounds like a cliche, but I think my family has been something that I really, really don't know where I would be without them. I've got the same wife coming up on 67 years in June. 3 daughters, all successful, all married, all with children, 11 grandkids and 3 great-grandchildren. And to be able to do all this well with no college education has made me not only feel how lucky I am, but also to connect with kids who might have been in a situation like me, that with a family with no money, and they couldn't afford to send me to school. But it's okay. You can still make something of yourself. I tell these kids, take a look at me. The kids in Maryland say, you don't have a degree? I said, no, I don't have a degree. No. Well, how did you do all this? Just believed in myself. I had opportunities that were given to me, and I learned to not make waves, be nice to people, because you never know what could come around again, and do the best you can, and good things are going to happen to you. And that's been my philosophy.
Well, when we return with more of the Sports Life, our chat with Johnny Holliday will continue.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second.
Remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, today we have been visiting with Johnny Holliday, who has had an amazing broadcast journey and life. He has gone from being on the stage with the Beatles during their final performance to surviving a plane crash and becoming a Hall of Fame broadcaster, which, by the way, is our next topic of conversation. 2003, you got inducted into the Radio Television Broadcasters Hall of Fame. What was that like for you?
Well, it was pretty cool because Dan Patrick went in the same year that I did. But that was pretty nice. It was back in Ohio, which I'd been there, and all my family went back at that time with me. And it was very, very special. I think when you're working in these different markets, you don't think anybody's going to, recognize what you've done. And because all the stations are basically the same, it's just different cities. But I was really, truly honored. And the guy that introduced me was a record promoter that I had become friends with in Cleveland named Carl Maduri. Now, Carl Maduri was a writer, a singer, a producer. He produced The Morning After by Maureen McGovern from the Poseidon Adventure. He produced Wild Cherry, played that funky music, White Boy. That was his record. He wrote Miss Teenage America. And he'd been a record promoter when I was in Cleveland. And if I got stuck for somebody to be a guest, I just pick up the phone and say, hey, Carl, I got to dance. I'll be there. What time you want me there? So he'd go out and lip sync his records. It was very special. Very, very special.
Well, you have been one of the announcers that you hear on some major network television shows. And one of those shows you were involved with was the Roger Miller Show. And I've always been fascinated with him. The first time I heard things like Dang Me and Do Wackadoo, among other things he did. What kind of guy was he?
He was tremendous, Will. Tremendous. I got to meet him. I was doing the afternoons on KYA, and we broadcast from the Mark Hopkins Hotel. He was appearing across the street, and so he came over to be on my show. And so I used to do impersonations and different voices and stuff like that. And so he says to me as we're doing the interview, he said, understand you do me. I said, well, I try. He said, well, let me hear you do me. So I said, I was really, what do I do then, right? I said, let's see. England swings like a pendulum do. Bobby's on bicycle 2x2. Westminster Abbey, the Tower of Big Ben. The rosy red cheeks of the little children. And he goes, that's not bad. So a week later, I get a call, and it's him calling from L.A. saying, we got this television show. How'd you like to be my announcer? Yeah, sure. So I flew down every week to Burbank. We taped it for NBC, and the show would open with him on an honest to goodness boxcar that they had brought in the studio, coming down the tracks, and he's on the edge of the boxcar, sitting up high, legs over the side with his guitar, doing Dang Me or something like that to open up the show every single week. And I didn't realize he was starting to go down a little bit physically, and he had some illnesses here, illnesses there. But he was amazing. He was just down to earth, and I just love working with him.
Well, and also, while the gimmick songs will be remembered. By the way, that was a pretty good rendition of that tune, Johnny.
How about remember the one, you can't roller skate in the Buffalo Herd?
That's right. Wait a minute. You can't roller skate in Buffalo Herd, but you can be happy if you want to, or something like that, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, and then he went on, he put together an amazing Broadway show. He won a Tony for that. So it's such a gifted guy. So Is it true you are 88? Is that true?
I'll be 89 in October.
What do you have for breakfast?
This morning I had Cheerios with bananas, had a little chicken salad for lunch, and my wife surprises me for dinner. Nothing special, nothing I know of. And I've had some, some close calls, but so far so good.
I remember the last time we were in Maryland for a basketball game. Me and you were just talking before the game, and I remember saying to you, I know you're in your 80s, and I don't even know what that's supposed to look like, but damn, you look good.
I tell you what, I love, Will, when I'll go to the store, for example, and I'll see this guy in a wheelchair, and I'll go up and I'll say, how you doing? You go, going fine. He said, I got some aches and pains. I said, hey, listen, I bet you I'm older than you are. And they always say, I bet you're not. And I said, well, how old are you? He said, 69. I said, I got you beat. Well, almost 20 years. And the big smile on their face. Yeah, my lovely wife is, let's see, she's 86, and she looks like she's 65.
Wow.
And I've always had like a baby face, I guess. I don't know. But I don't do anything special, just try to take care of myself and play golf a lot, stay active. I mean, I can't imagine what's going to happen. I'm going to have to retire sooner or later because you can't do it forever, and I don't want to do it forever. But I will miss what I'm doing very much. But I'll find something else that's just as good, just as enjoyable, and probably do some traveling with Mary Claire because she wants to go here and go there, and so that should be nice.
Well, one thing I want to ask you about the state of college athletics in general. Are you optimistic at all that we might get back to something normal, or maybe the things that have made it great will return?
Will, I would love to have the opportunity of having people like you and me talk to the powers that be that are making these decisions and tell it from our perspective what's going on and how the transfer portal has basically destroyed, college sports, and how the NIL thing is probably, cost coaches their hairline. And it's just so unfair. And I don't know how they made this decision to be in the situation we're in. It appears they didn't think it out entirely or clearly and realize all the backlash they're going to get. And the NIL stuff, for example, how can you basically have a happy football team or basketball team when one guy's getting $2 million and the other guy's getting $150,000, or one guy's getting 100 and one guy's getting 10,000? There's got to be jealousy. There's got to be some, animosity for that kind of stuff. It just doesn't make any sense. And the fan base gets really shortchanged because you don't know who you're going to have next year or at practice next day, maybe. I mean, I love what Coach Izzo, his philosophy at Michigan State is about, I want guys who want to come here and play for me, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, not for the money, but because of the tradition, and they've always wanted to play for the Spartans. That's the kind of guy I want. And I expect them to stay 4 years. Well, that's not going to happen. It makes everybody has to adjust to everything. And I may be old school, maybe you're old school. Certainly Gary Williams was, certainly Jay Wright was, Tony Bennett was at Virginia, all these guys, and Coach Izzo. And that's the kind of stuff that works. Believe me, the philosophy those guys had. I am hopeful that somehow they'll figure it out and get back to an even keel.
Well, Johnny, as a final thought, as you kind of review your career, what do you think your legacy is going to be?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, Will. I don't give it a lot of thought, but I would hope it would be, now I say I would hope it would be, just a guy that loved what he was doing, loved representing the University of Maryland, whether it was on the radio, it was on television, it was in speaking engagements, it was appearing, whatever it was, and was a nice guy and was relatable to people. I've never, ever put myself above anybody. I think that's the most dangerous thing you can do when you think you're hot stuff. Believe me, you're not hot stuff. And that would be my thought. I've always tried to be nice to people, try to be accommodating, as you have. And it makes a world of difference to people that they appreciate that, I think.
What a great visit. What a great trip down memory lane. I really appreciate this.
Well, I've never had a chance to really open up like this and tell my story. You're the first guy. This has been really, really nice. Let me just say one quick story. I was doing theater, and when you think you're hot stuff, you think you're a big-time star. So I'm doing a show called Me and My Girl, and we got nominated for a Helen Hayes Award, me for Best Actor in a Washington musical, and the girl I was playing opposite for the Best Actress, and the show got nominated for Best Musical in the D.C. theater scene. So at a matinee one day, it's traveling tours, it's a lot of senior citizens, it's totally different. And we did 8 shows a week for 3 months, as well as me getting up in the morning and doing a morning show, but I loved it, absolutely loved it. This is only 20 years ago. So the show is over in the matinee, and I'm walking in the parking lot. They're taking this little lady in a wheelchair, and she's going to the bus that brought them from the home. And as I walked past her, I said, "Did you like the show?" She says, "Let me tell you something, young man. I saw the original of Me and My Girl in London in 1941. This was better than the original." Now, I had the lead in that show. So I tell her, I said, when I go back tonight for the nighttime performance, I'm going to tell the cast exactly what you said. She says, "Oh, were you in it?" And I said, "Yes, I was in the show." "Oh, okay, well, thank you." That'll bring you down, huh?
Oh, it will. It will.
Oh, my. Were you in it?
Oh, man. Well, Johnny, I just appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate being on with you.
The legendary Johnny Holliday. Back with our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Schmiller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. While today's show was special, hope everybody enjoyed a visit with a very, very unique individual in Johnny Holliday. So with that, we have now worked our way to the parting shots.
And by the way, if you missed this entire conversation with Johnny Holliday, give us a follow at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's again at Sports Life Now. You'll catch the entire conversation with Johnny Holliday. For my parting shot, it's actually going to break away from the theme of the show this week, but it was a thought that struck me the other day because the Big Ten is having a moment, Will, when you consider the fact that your last 3 national champions in football, they come from the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten just got to see a drought of 26 years end in men's basketball with a national title and 27-year drought on the women's side as UCLA won the national championship this year. And then you sprinkle in volleyball, wrestling. They've all had moments on top of the hill, right? What's the one very obvious area, the next drought that needs to be vanquished for the Big Ten Conference? Ice hockey. It just feels so natural that the Big Ten, as good as it's been, especially in that specific sport, has got to find a way to have a national championship because right now, and some of our listeners may not be privy to this, the Big Ten has 0 all-time because the Big Ten started to actually endorse the sport of ice hockey as an official sport in the conference the 13-14 season. The last time any of the Big Ten hockey teams won a national championship was 2007 Michigan State. And of course, again, they weren't a part of the Big Ten at the time when they won that. So the next obvious terrain for the Big Ten to conquer, it's ice hockey.
It's interesting when you said that, I'm going, well, Dalton, we've had guys win this thing.
But not as an official Big Ten member.
You are right. Well, as my parting shot, I'm going to go back with a couple final thoughts about Johnny Holliday. In his broadcast career, which began in the 50s, it began at a small daytime AM radio station in Perry, Georgia. Now, it's hard to imagine that one individual could be voted the nation's top disc jockey in 1965, be inducted into the Radio Television Broadcasters Hall of Fame, as well as being honored by the National Football Foundation and College Football Hall of Fame by being chosen to receive the Chris Schenkel Award. By the way, he also wrote an autobiography entitled From Rock to Jock, and if you come across it, it's a really, really good read. So with that wraps up our show for this week. Hope everybody enjoyed it. And as always, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton, I'm Will Teeman, and thanks for your time.